You're not alone. If you need someone to talk to today, please contact Crisis Services Canada by either calling them at 1-833-456-4566 all hours of the day, or you can text them at 45645 at 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. Remember, you're not alone, and Crisis Services Canada is here to help. Happy Wednesday, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba on AETi Productions. I'm your host, of course, Graeme Forsyth. Happy to be here on this Wednesday morning. Wasn't able to get a Monday show out to you guys this week because I was feeling a bit under the weather, and we weren't able to also have our editing softwares up, just trying to figure out a solution for that. But yeah, we're back here on this Wednesday morning to bring you guys this edition of the show. Of course, Rise and Shine Manitoba is brought to you by Fabricland Winkler, Evolve Green, AETi, and Systems Beauty College. Today, I'm going to be sitting down with three guests. One is a pre-recorded interview, but this first one is live. Joining me first is going to be Harry Siemens on the Farm Report. We're going to talk about what's been going on with agriculture here in Manitoba and some other things as well. Also, I'm going to be joined in a pre-recorded interview, like I said, by Lorena Mitchell on a new segment here on Rise and Shine Manitoba called the Solar Update. And yeah, after that, I'll be joined by Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, as he'll be joining me to talk about this weekend's games that happened this past Saturday and Sunday. And then we'll be also ending off with a segment of Graeme's opinion where I'll be giving you guys my CFL power rankings as well as my predictions for week 8 there in the league. Well, without further ado, let's dive into it now. Harry Siemens joining me first here on Manitoba's show, Rise and Shine Manitoba, here on AETi Productions. And a lot to talk about today here on the Farm Report. Of course, the federal election happened on Monday. Going to be fun to get Harry's thoughts on that. We're also going to dive into some other things as well. So without further ado, let's be joined by the man himself now. Well, I'll be joined by the man himself now. Harry Siemens, he's in his car this morning. He told me he was driving to find a better signal. He has, and he joins us here with some pretty good connection. Harry, thanks for taking the time, of course, out of your Wednesday morning this time for joining AETi Productions edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba here on the Farm Report. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, and how are you doing?
Doing good. I was up earlier than usual this morning. I went to bed pretty early. I don't know what time I passed out at, but woke up at about 3 a.m., stayed up, and yeah, just got some work done, stuff like that. So I've been up for a while. And yeah, excited to have you on the show this morning, of course. The federal election happening on Monday, basically the same results as we saw in the last election, of course. The Liberal Party winning a minority government once again. Just speak about if there how this impacts the agriculture landscape here in Canada, or if it has any impacts at all with this being a re-election.
Well, I don't think we're going to see any changes as far as positive support is concerned. Maybe we will hopefully we will. But we have a lot of things that the farm organizations and the various commodity groups talked about before the election, and they asked whichever government that would get elected would focus not so much on handouts. No, it wasn't about handouts at all. It's focused on recognizing agriculture and farming for what it is, because it seems that more and more with the liberals out east and the other people out west, that there was a, a concern that there wasn't the same feeling how important agriculture is to Canadians. And so we what they want are, all the other segments of society do get all kinds of support and ways of and infrastructure to work in. What agriculture wants, they want to be left alone in some areas where they know they do it best. They don't want to be taxed to death via carbon tax, because, as I've been said on a number of occasions, farmers growing crops are the best sequesters of carbon. So they feel they should be paid for that instead of having to be taxed with more carbon tax, when they're the only ones in Canada that are actually taking the so-called carbon out of the environment. So, those are some of the things. Number one, we want to make sure that agriculture is considered by the government as what it really is. I mean, I've told you many times, and I think you've learned that probably over and over from me, is that farmers in Canada feed the rest of the world, not the whole world. Well, we do a good chunk, because 65 to 70% of our production goes to feed other people. And so therefore, it's important that we focus on that. But for the most part, when I look at, and I'm driving, I'm actually just on the outskirts of Morris, Manitoba, which is about 45 minutes straight south of Winnipeg on Highway 75. I'm on Highway 23, just west of Morris, and I just came through Low Farm. And it was interesting, I was trying to find a signal, and I'm looking for the bars on my phone, and I'd be driving, and I know the signals here are not very good. And that's another beef that I have with the whole network of telephone systems. I mean, we have some of the most productive land in the world, and yet farmers in this area are struggling with cell service, and boy, do they ever need it. So I'm coming, and then I'd see 3 bars on my phone, so I'd slow down and stop. By the time I'd stop, it was down to 1 bar, and then I'd drive again, and it was 2, and finally here I think I've got a consistent 3 bars of reception out of 5. That's still not perfect, but it's better than 1 or 2. So, but when I look at the surrounding areas, and I'm looking to my southeast here, and I see Cargill and the grain companies over there with their elevators. I look to the other direction, and there's fields that have been combined and already tilled because we had that rain. So, the mood pretty good with the grain and special crops farmers. We're seeing soybeans coming off. The edible beans have come off. In a little while, we'll start to see corn. But for corn, we normally need a good frost in order to dry down the moisture, so it doesn't cost as much to dry it down on the farm. So, yes, things are good, but there are some other issues in some of the other ag sectors that we can talk about.
Yeah, and one thing that I saw on your Twitter you posted about it, I'm pretty sure you posted a story about it. It was an update on the African swine flu, swine fever, as I should say. Just
Good for you.
yeah, update us on just what's happening in that development. I know we've talked about it before and how it was a worry if it gets in here in Canada. Can you speak about just what the worries are with the African swine fever?
You know what? Thanks a lot, Graeme, that you picked up on that. That's awesome, because that is probably the biggest fear factor that the pork industry faces. And when we talk about the pork industry, I've shared this with some people. It's not only the pork industry, but pigs eat a lot of grain, and the more pigs we have, the more grain they eat. And right now, African swine fever is in Germany, it's in Russia, the Ukraine, it's in China, of course, and some of the other countries. Philippines has a real bad case of it. The Dominican Republic got it, and that was a main concern. And so from there, uh, it's a concern because we just saw yesterday, I believe it was yesterday or the day before, where there's an outbreak in Haiti, and that's bad news for North American hog producers. It doesn't mean that we're going to get it. I'm not putting out an alarm out there, except as Dr. John Carr, who's a renowned, probably the top hog veterinarian consultant in the world. I had a chance to visit with him yesterday. He's in Australia right now, and he gave me some points on what is going on, and so we have African swine fever goes from the Dominican Republic to Haiti, and just look at what's been happening at the southern border of the United States. From which country are people coming, the illegal immigrants? And their last thing in their mind will be whether they're bringing African swine fever into the United States and from there into Canada. I mean, they have to have a piece of pork, but yeah, so you come from Korea, you put some pork sandwiches or a piece of sausage into and if that is infected with African swine fever and you drop it somewhere, before you know it, a wild boar, wild pig gets it, and from there, and the big thing is that if we were to get it here in Manitoba, we would basically shut down the hog industry in the entire province. It's that severe because they need to then eradicate the disease before we can ship any pork into other countries. And when you ship a good chunk of your pork to other countries, then that devastates the industry. So you then have to be at least 30 days free of African swine fever before they'll even consider allowing you to start shipping or exporting pork to other countries. So that's why the problem. So if you get it in the United States, and here's what Dr. John Carr told me. He says, the biggest thing that I have been telling hog producers is biosecurity, biosecurity, and biosecurity. Because if you can build some fences around your pig barn and you make absolutely sure that nobody comes in with any piece of pork, like it doesn't move on your clothes, but it moves in pig meat. And so and we've seen in the last year, like a year ago, we had a last outbreak of what we call PED. That's a virus that is very bad for small piglets, and it devastated a number of farms in Manitoba. But because of the biosecurity that's been increased due to the COVID situation, we haven't had an outbreak in Canada in a whole year, and that just goes to show that we can keep this stuff out. And so the first line of defense is your farm, your door. That's how you can keep out African swine fever. So that's why I'm glad you talked about it. And I've worked on it for a number of years, ever since it became prevalent to us as producers. And that's where I see it sitting at this point.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely an interesting thing because if that happens to, like you said, reach Manitoba somehow, it's going to lead to some impactful consequences that are not good ones.
Right.
And yeah, it wouldn't be very good. And, one thing that I also saw was you most recently posted on Twitter was something about a ransomware attack. A lot of money involved in that. Explain how this could this kind what the impact is with this story.
Well, the impact with this story is more specifically for that particular cooperative. And I haven't quite figured out exactly, but they talked about a $5.8 million uh, hack into a system. That particular cooperative, it shut that cooperative down. Like everything is online, right? And so it shut down their Wi-Fi, it shut down their computers. Everything had to be shut down because of the infiltration of bad people. and that's exactly what it is. And there are also those people that are so keen on animal, activists, that don't want to see hog farmers producing hogs and those kinds of things. So far, and I checked with it's called the Animal Ag Alliance in the United States. They monitor what is going on with those kinds of things around the U.S. first of all, and I talked to Hannah, who's the vice president, and she hadn't even seen it yet, and so she had thanked me for it, but she gave me a great response in saying that, you know what, there are those kinds of people and organizations that want to harm businesses, they want to harm agriculture, and they want to make sure that they can somehow damage production agriculture the way we know it, because they think that all food production is destroying the environment and the climate, and we're not treating animals right. Well, I know farmers, and I've been on many farms. Yes, the odd time you have a bad apple, but for the most part, 99.999% of farmers, first of all, they treat their land absolutely as best they can because they make a living from it. Secondly, they treat their employees as good as they can. Sometimes it's lacking, but at the same time, so many foreign workers come from all over the world to work on farms here in Canada. And thirdly, when it comes to animals, you know what? These animals are their bread and butter, and pork and beans, so to speak. And so therefore, we we have very good, top-notch farmers and agricultural people that look after the land, the environment, and the animals.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge part. Obviously, people are vegetarian, vegan, stuff like that. And obviously, gotta respect their choices, but gotta understand that farmers out there, people out there who are respectful are gonna respect the animals and, benefit from their gifts and the things that they offer because of it. Because there is that respectability factor there for sure. Is what I'm trying to say. Just speaking about the crops now, you spoke about it earlier on in the show. Just speak about how the crops are doing at this point with everything that's been happening in the past few weeks.
Well, I would say we've got probably 75 to 80% of the crop in Manitoba is in the bin. We haven't got all the yields yet. I mean, we know that the crop was down. We know that across Western Canada, where we grow canola, they were initially expecting maybe 18 to 20 million metric tons of production. I've seen Stats Canada with as low as 14 and a half million tons of production. So that's a 20-25% drop. But we'll see once all the crops are in the bin as to what exactly happens, because canola, we have 5 crushing plants, just in the Yorkton, Saskatchewan area, and they're building more. And so canola is in demand around the world. And so when we see crop shortages like that, it obviously drives up the price, which is a good thing for farmers. But at the same time, we want to make sure we have enough to satisfy our foreign customers, and specifically our local Canadian and U.S. customers.
Yeah, for sure. Just leaving off with this one, Harry, to end off this week's farm report. Harry Siemens, farming tip of the week for farmers on Siemens Says.
Well, the tip of the week is twofold. Number one, biosecurity, biosecurity, biosecurity for the agricultural industry, and that doesn't only apply to pigs, but first and foremost, it applies to hog producers. But we have similar things happening. We have a clubroot weed in canola that is devastating, and now we're starting to see some of the same things. When farmers move from field to field, they need to clean those implements so that they don't pull that weed from one field to the next, because it is also devastating. So biosecurity is key. And you know what? The election has happened. I am of the opinion that I only need to worry about things that I have that I can control, and not worry, but look after the things that I can control. But there are many things that people try to worry about and spend time and waste time are things that they have no control over. So today, my second part of that tip is, you know what? Do the things you have control over and leave those other things you can't do anything about to other people.
Yep, you can only control the things you can control. That is the truth for sure. Some wise words from a wise man here, as always on Rise and Shine Manitoba on the Farm Report. Harry Siemens joining this September 22nd episode. Hopefully you get home safe, Harry. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful sunny day here in Manitoba. Can't wait to
Thank
talk to
you.
you next week. Yeah, take care, Harry. Have a good one. Harry Siemens, the man, the legend on the Farm Report, joining me here first on Rise and Shine Manitoba. Was stumbling my words a bit. We'll try to get better as this show goes along. Joining me next, I know I said that Lorena Mitchell would be joining the show next. We're going to push her interview to the last interview in this episode because we need to talk some Pilot Mound Hockey Academy hockey here coming up, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Goalie coach and marketing director of the Academy, Gordie Tumilson, will be joining me after this commercial break here on Manitoba Show, Rise and Shine Manitoba. Stay with us after this commercial break for more of Rise and Shine here on AETi Productions.
Why go solar? Solar is better than ever. Our revolutionary design and inverter equipment with the latest in solar panel technology for the ultimate in-home and business security. That's right, I said security. Grid security and security of your home are linked. Fortify your future today with a battery backup system. No maintenance, quiet running. Did you know in Manitoba, grid-connected, off-grid, and battery backup systems are 100% right off in the year you purchase for any company or farm? Do you want to back up your internet, keep your tills running, and the lights on? We can install a system that is right for you with battery backup fully capable of taking on all those essential loads and keeping you running. When you call our experts at Evolve Green, ask about getting your free energy audit today. Call or email today to find out what system works best for you. 1-866-5EVOLVE or support@evolvegreen.ca. Also, be sure to check out our website at www.evolvegreen.ca.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Manitoba, everybody. Of course, Manitoba Show is brought to you by Evolve Green and Fabricland Winkler, as you guys just saw with those commercials during the break. We're also brought to you by AETi and Systems Beauty College here on Rise and Shine Manitoba, our proud sponsors. You'll also be seeing a Pilot Mound Hockey Academy commercial as well during this next commercial break, because who's going to be joining us now is goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, Gordie Tumilson. And Gordie, just like Harry, is joining me on the road, except I'm not able to see Gordie because his camera isn't on this morning. But Gordie, I'm going to hear your voice in just a moment here. Nice to have you on the show here on this Wednesday morning. How's it going on your little road trip this morning?
Good morning, Graeme. Everything seems to be nice and sunny and clear, and everything's a go. Thank you.
That's great. It's great that you have some nice weather out there. I know that it's really sunny out here in Manitoba today, where I'm from, Winnipeg. So yeah, great. That's nice weather all across the province here this morning in Manitoba. Let's get into some hockey talk here. The Academy, of course, had 4 games this past weekend. The U18 female prep team and the U15 male prep team were in action. We saw only one win from the Academy in total, but very exciting hockey action this weekend. Of course, me and my color commentator, Cody Wall, were covering the Sunday games. I had a chance to cover all 4. Just speak about just the action this week, starting off with the 4-3 loss by the U18s versus Central Plains. They gave up 3 goals in the second period. That was Pilot Mound, and then they came back a bit in the third, but fell short of a comeback bid. Just speak about how the team was able to continue to fight back in that game and to almost completing that comeback on Saturday.
Yeah, it was a great weekend for hockey. Actually, we had a 5th game, one at the rink on the Friday with the U15 boys. So anyway, the girls made a valiant effort to come back in the hockey game. We've been outshot pretty badly, but goalkeeper was good, and we were clearing rebounds away, and so we managed to get really close. But and as we got down to the last couple of minutes, we put a lot of pressure on their team, as good Canadian hockey teams will do, and we just came up a little short. We missed almost an empty net goal to tie the game with a few seconds to go. So our girls have great spirit. They're working on their skills and on their team play. Only been together for 2 of the 32 weeks that these teams will be together, and so we've got a lot of time and a lot of work to do in that time to get better. But we will. That's a promise from all of our coaches and our players.
Yeah, and just for that game on Saturday, of course, River Johnston, one of the goaltenders on the U18 team, ended up leaving the game with a shoulder injury. Julie Ducharme ended up coming in for the remainder of that game and ended up playing for the full 60 minutes on Sunday's matchup against Eastman. Just speak about what you've liked from Julie Ducharme's game so far. I know you've spoken about it before, but just seeing her get more reps this weekend and her performing the way she did against Eastman, definitely, I'd have to assume, gives not only you, but the coaching staff, Brad and his staff, a lot of confidence in her moving forward this season.
Well, Julie Ducharme has been great. She's really come back from last year was a skill development season, as it turned out. We didn't get many games, and Julie took it upon herself. I mean, with a lot of encouragement from myself and her goalie coach back in Airdrie, Alberta, where she's from. We both worked with Julie, but it's up to the player. It's never the coach. It's always the player who wants to put in the time and the effort. We're sort of the experts off the ice. We can see the little things to improve on. Julie came back to us this year, just sort of ready to play, and her skill improvement was ginormous. I don't know a better word. She's not still the most fluid player yet, but she's certainly on the right track for that. She's a bit raw. When I spoke to her dad the other day, she's a bit raw yet, but she has all the skills in place that we just have to kind of smooth them out a little bit and clear up a few little rough bumps, and she's been super. So we're thrilled with the way Julie's played, and River's going to get better shortly here. She's got a bit of a shoulder injury. We hope to get her into 1 game on the weekend out of the 4 coming up in Portage La Prairie, and if that works out and she doesn't hurt it anymore, then we expect to have her back fully. But Julie Ducharme has been great, and we're going to continue to use her as much as we can.
Yeah, and always a great thing when you have a goaltender like that who has all the skills, and the only thing you need to shore up with her is just correcting some of those things and smoothing them over. She's definitely looked great in the games that she's been able to play, and especially in that win over Eastman, especially in those last 40 minutes of that game. Let's move on to just one line that I think has been looking very impressive for the U18s. It's that line of Sate, Lacoste, and Hildebrand. Sate and Hildebrand right now, both top two in points on the team. Katie Lacoste has looked great in all zones. Just speak about how huge that line is going to be in terms of this U18 team having success up front and to leading the other lines.
Well, yeah, at the moment they've been super. I mean, they seem to have some chemistry, and that's always the hard part with any new players coming together. Morgan Satie, of course, is a star point getter for our team. She's been top person on our team for the last couple of years, and she'll continue to do that. And she really helps bring along the other players. You know, she plays a fairly simple game, but with her skill set and her timing and all those kinds of things, she makes the other players look really good as well. And of course, those two other players really hustle and dig for the puck, and they get the puck to Morgan, and good things just happen because of that. So they're. And I should say too, though, that we're not settled in on our lines yet. I know Coach Brad Platt and Cassidy Carrolls are not settled in on. We're still doing some experimenting. That'll be what we do in Portage on the weekend. So anybody listening and watching, to our games and whatnot, and hearing this particular report, we're monkeying around with this. This is what preseason is all about, and maybe a bit of the season that we play. You know, we want to be better. We want to make sure all of our lines can contribute both offensively and defensively, and so that's what we're working on right now, as well as your skill development and practice.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, still some finalization be done with those lines, but I gotta say, Gordie, it would be pretty fun to see those three on the line consistently this season. And one thing I gotta say, I have been struggling with Morgan's name. I started off by calling her Seedy, then I called her Satie, and I got the word from Brad Platt, the head coach of the team, that it's pronounced Sate. That's how he pronounced it. You pronounced it Satie, so you know what? I'm just gonna go with what Morgan told me and pronounce her last name Satie from now on. One other thing about the U18s before we move on to just the U15s, just in the games that they've been in, they've given up a period where, at least in every one of their games, where they've given up a big chunk of goals. But other than that one period where they give that up, they've been pretty solid. Just knowing that we've been seeing a lot of strong things out of this U18 program so far this season on the ice, and there are little hiccups like that, but for the most part, they've looked pretty solid. How much confidence does the academy have in this program this year to potentially be a contender down the line come postseason?
Well, I think we always go into the season thinking that we've got a chance to win it all. It'll really be up to the players. I mean, we don't have quite the star-studded group that we had 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, but we've got a hard-working group this year, and the chemistry on the whole team seems to be better than I think we started off with last year. So, we're thinking that if we can get the team to play as a team, that's always the goal for the coaches, of course. Then you can interchange players, and if we get an injury or two here and there, it won't really matter. So we're 2 weeks into this thing, lots of work to do, and we're going to be a grinding team. I know that. I mean, our kids are ready to go to work really hard and battle all the way through it. So, yeah, and you never know with a team like that. They're certainly capable of winning some things. If we get the goaltending at the end of the year in the playoffs, who knows? We might be able to come home with that trophy. That's the goal. That's what we're working for. So let's wait and see.
Yeah, for sure. Should be interesting. You guys definitely got some key pieces this year. Morgan Satie, of course, Haley Hildebrand. Vanna Ditto, Amy Raymer, and of course goaltender Julie Ducharme, just to name a few of the players on this team so far that have really stood out. Just going into the U15s now, starting off pretty ugly against the rink, getting smacked 2 games in a row, 17-1 on Friday, and the program's first ever game in its history, and then 13-1 loss on Saturday. But they bounced back nicely with probably their best effort of the year. With a 4-3 OT loss on Sunday to the Southwest Cougars U15 AAA team. The Buffalo were up 2-0 after the first period in that game. It was tied 2-2 after the second, 3-3 after the third, and of course losing in overtime. But how nice was it to just see that this team could come out and compete and give Southwest everything they could handle in that game on Sunday?
Yeah, the Southwest game was a great indicator of what our team is like and who we're going to be. And again, 2 weeks in, other teams have been in a little bit longer. And when you're an academy team, the start of the season seems to be a little bit slower, probably because we're not in tryouts. I mean, all of our players have made the team coming in. So we seem to start slow. Maybe our conditioning isn't quite where it needs to be. And it doesn't seem to matter what age group that is.
And I'm not sure if I lost Gordie or not, or if the thing with my mic happened again with that stupid technical difficulty. But I can't hear him anymore. Not sure if anyone else can hear him. And that is unfortunate. Of course, this is always a possibility when someone is on the road doing one of these interviews with the connection. I can't hear Gordie anymore. Oh, there he is. He's cutting in and out. So unfortunately, we're going to have to, he's lagging pretty badly here. So we're going to have to cut that interview short, unfortunately. Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, joining the show this morning. We were talking about the U18 team primarily, which is the female prep team for this academy. During that interview, of course, and we just started to talk about the U15s, but unfortunately, Gordie cut out. In terms of when you guys, the viewers, can check out our next broadcast for Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, we'll be in Pilot Mound, me and the rest of our broadcasting crew here at ASTV Productions. We'll be there at Black Jack Stewart Arena Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Central Daylight Time to broadcast the U17 Mill Prep Program's first exhibition game of the season against the Rink Hockey Academy's U16 team. You can catch that broadcast on our network anywhere you can watch our broadcasts, on Facebook, on YouTube, and other places as well. I'm sure there's a lot of places where we broadcast on ASTV. Of course, you can check it out on our website as well. But after the commercial break, we're going to be talking about some solar stuff, solar technology, with the CEO and founder of Evolve Green, Lorena Mitchell. She'll be joining the show after the break in a pre-recorded interview here on Manitoba Show, Rise and Shine Manitoba, here on ASTV Productions. It's got to find a commercial here. Here we go.
Big Systems Beauty College is a little bit unique in respect to the way we teach our program. We don't do so much structure and learning. In block teaching, everybody can move along at the pace that suits them. Everybody can move along at the pace that suits them. If they can move faster, they do so. Therefore, learning everything earlier and getting more practice in all segments of hairstyling as opposed to just being stuck in one section for a certain period of time. So we try to accommodate all the different learning styles.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Manitoba here on AETi. We're now going to go into a segment here that we're going to do every once in a while here on Rise and Shine Manitoba with Lorena Mitchell here on the Solar Report. She's the CEO and founder of Evolve Green and also hosts Evolve Greenworks, Evolution Greenworks here on AETi Productions. Lorena, thanks so much for taking the time and joining me here on this Tuesday morning as this episode is pre-recorded. What's been going on since the last time that we've talked here on Rise and Shine?
Well, actually, it's been quite tremendous. We've had this federal election going on, which has put us all on edge because the Liberals have come forward with some really great plans for the environment. And, you know, it's touching every segment of the population, from funding for farms, for the RMs, and for community centers, healing centers, Indigenous spaces, for all manner of things to help everybody become a little less carbon footprint and save energy. So we've been really tense about that. So as of this morning, Tuesday, wonderful news that we're in a minority Liberal government again, and our funding for these people will continue. So we're pretty excited about that this morning.
Yeah, that's great. It's great that the election kind of went the way that you guys wanted in the industry of solar technology and stuff like that. Just speaking about, Evolve Green, you being the CEO and founder, just what's the updates with the company right now? Just talk about maybe some of the stuff that you guys are offering here at this point in terms of deals and stuff like that.
Well, it's pretty interesting. We've got the Greener Home program going on. So we have lots of clients that are signing up for that. That's a $5,000 grant for every homeowner for doing energy upgrades. So we've been doing a lot of signups for that and doing estimates. And then when they get their first energy evaluation done, we'd be able to go in and then complete those projects. So there's a lot of Manitobans and Canadians, really, in truth, that are trying to be greener and trying to do something more environmental, but also trying to reduce their costs at home, because things are getting more expensive, right? So every year the power bill goes up and all of these things. So, there's the Greener Home program offers something for everybody if you're updating your windows and doors, whatever you're doing. So here at Evolve Green, we are doing a seminar this week. Actually, we've got 2 of them left to go. We just finished Brandon, where we're speaking to people about the different funding available so that they can ask us questions in person. You do have to be double vaccinated, but on the 23rd at 7 p.m., we are going to do an Evolution Greenworks right from our seminar so that you can tune in and ask questions. And so if you aren't fully vaccinated or cannot be vaccinated, whichever the case may be for you, you can tune in at 7 p.m. on the 23rd, I believe that's Thursday, and you can ask those questions and listen in on the seminar. So that's pretty exciting. And we are going to be at the Main Street Legion over just by Jefferson on Main Street there, and on the 23rd. And then we are going to be in the Legion just in St. James. You can just look at our Facebook for all the information or contact us directly.
Yeah, and that's great. Of course, with you being the host of Evolution Greenworks, just how exciting is that? Just in terms of using that show as a way to communicate and grow the business with Evolve Green and just everything that you do.
Well, primarily we talk to other companies and technologies and also people doing environmental things, whether it be training, policy, or politics, book launches. So we do a lot of things in that regard. So, but my experience in the renewable energy sector, of course, helps drive really great questions. So it's a real informative show for people to understand things better because my knowledge goes not just for solar, but storage systems and truly I've been involved in a lot of different things in my lifetime, so I'm able to speak on lots of things like hydrogen and different types of heating systems. And actually this week we are going to have somebody who does composting with worms. So what he does is he has a business that he sells worms, these special kind of worms, and we're going to find that out on the show. These special kind of worms, basically you can use them to compost out all of your compost. That chews it up and makes good soil for you. So that's what he does, and he's going to explain how that all works on Evolution Greenworks this week on Thursday afternoon, I believe it is.
Yeah, that's great. It's great that people are going to have an opportunity to get some explanation on that on what that is because that does sound pretty interesting. Just you guys at Evolve Green sell a lot of things to do with in terms of solar and some other things too. What would you say at this time of year as fall is coming up is probably the products that you guys see yourself selling the most?
Right now, actually, battery backup. People are really worried about their future. They now have, oxygen machines, CPAPs, and other things within their home, like communications. They don't want to lose during power outages. And of course, in the past couple of years, we've seen those more frequently and more severely in some cases, right? So, like Portage Prairie was out of power for a week. So we do this for businesses too. Like, we can keep gas pumps running. We can all of those things. So we can add it on the off-grid side. So we're not selling to hydro, because selling to hydro is, they don't really give you very much for it. So we always try to design so that we're taking care of your loads, but we're not giving hydro anything because they don't give us very much for it since they changed that. They used to match, which I thought was a really great program. We had it for years, and then they decided after the pilot program was done and people had their contracts in place that they reduced it to less than 3 cents a kilowatt. So we just designed better so that we maximize your return for investment. The return for investment, we have seen some incredible stuff, anywhere from 9 years to 12 years. Battery systems usually run around 14 years. When you install a solar system, you're only 6 or 7 cents a kilowatt. So when you spend over 9 cents a kilowatt now with hydro after taxes, you can see that solar is already much cheaper than hydro.
Yeah, that's great to hear that it's cost effective compared to the options out there for some people, which is great. Just throughout the past year, I guess throughout this past year and a bit with the pandemic, almost like 2 years now it's been going on. What have you seen in terms of just the trends in the industry of what people are leaning towards buying compared to pre-pandemic?
Pre-pandemic, people were more concerned about investment. During the pandemic, they were more concerned about prettying their world or moving out of their clustered urban centers. Now I think that's starting to calm down and people are starting to look back to investment. But I do see that some people are also concerned about even economic collapse. I don't believe that's going to happen, but I do believe things are probably going to be a little more expensive, not because of the pandemic, but more because of the drought situations that are occurring across North America.
Well, great to have you on the show this morning, Lorena,
Thank
on
you.
the solar
Thank you.
report. Yeah, no problem. The weekly solar report. I guess if we're able to have you on next week, we'll be talking to you again soon. Lorena Mitchell, CEO and founder of Evolve Green, host of Evolution Greenworks here on MBSN TV. You guys can check out her show, of course, coming up this Thursday, and there's going to be a lot of great things there. So, gonna let you go now, Lorena. Enjoy your road trip and stay safe as well. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Graeme. Bye.
And that was Lorena Mitchell joining us on the weekly solar report here on Rise and Shine Manitoba. Might make it bi-weekly, not too sure yet. But yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more of Lorena here in the upcoming episodes of Rise and Shine Manitoba. And speaking of Rise and Shine Manitoba, coming up on Manitoba Show, we're going to finish off with a final segment here of Graeme's opinion. CFL talk on there coming up next after the commercial break here on Rise and Shine Manitoba Show on ASTV Productions.
Welcome to Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, your world-class academic and hockey training facility created to maximize each student's athletic and academic potential. Blackjack Stewart Arena, home of the Buffalo, is inside the 46,000 square foot complex, as well as a curling rink and other facilities. The students have a unique combination of successful, well-rounded education at Pilot Mound Collegiate Institute and the professional hockey training in an encouraging community. The years of experience of on-ice coaching propel our students to the next level, both mentally and physically, in a professional environment.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Manitoba here on ASTV Productions. Of course, Lorena Mitchell, the CEO and president founder of Evolve Green, joined me on this edition of Rise and Shine Manitoba most recently. Of course, Harry Siemens joined me first in today's episode on the Farm Report, talked about the effects of the election, on what it might have on agriculture moving forward, talked about the African swine fever, a word that I haven't been able to say today. Let's try it again. African swine fever. There we go. And yeah, I also talked about some other things with him. And I also had a chance to sit down with Gordie Tumilson, goalie coach and marketing director of Pilot Mound Hockey Academy, for a short period of time before, well, not a short period of time, but a shorter period of time than I would have liked to have him on. He's on the road today, so unfortunately his connection ended up cutting out. But yeah, I'll be able to have a chance to talk to Gordie next week on this edition, on this show. Not on this edition, on this show, Rise and Shine Manitoba, on Monday morning. Of course, the next edition of this show comes out next Monday at 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. We'll be back to our normal broadcasting time for Manitoba show. But yeah, let's move into the final topic of the day, Graeme's opinion. And I'm going to give you guys my CFL power rankings and my predictions for how week 8 will go in the league. And we're going to start off with the Ottawa Red Blacks in 9th place on the power rankings. Of course, Ottawa coming off of the bye. And yeah, honestly, nothing has changed really for them. They, in my opinion, have the worst team in the league right now. They got some not bad talent on the roster, but one thing that's really been a struggle for them has been their quarterback play. And Matt Nichols, Dominic Davis have not been able to get the job done so far. Of course, Paul Lapoli's back as the head coach for the first time in a while. in his career. Definitely going to be some growing pains throughout this first year in Ottawa. And they got a tough matchup coming up tonight. They are at home. They are going up against the Hamilton Tiger Cats, but yeah, we'll get into my thoughts on that game in just a bit. But yeah, for now, the Ottawa Red Blacks are in 9th place on the power rankings. Going into the 8th team on the power rankings this week, it is the Edmonton Elks. And the Edmonton Elks this season, they've had some moments where they've been good. Of course, a good win over the BC Lions, a good win over the Calgary Stampeders on Labor Day weekend. Of course, this team has all the talent in the world at the wide receiver position. They got one of the best running backs in the league in James Wilder Jr. For now, it's just a question of their quarterbacks and their quarterback in play. And if that defense can hold up, of course, the Edmonton Elks this year. Not sure if I said Eskimos, honestly. I'm just thinking of that now, but referring to the Edmonton Elks, of course. My bad on pronouncing that name wrong if I did, but just the Achilles heel right now for them, I feel like, is their quarterback. Of course, their quarterback of this past week against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers was a rookie playing in his first ever game. Trying to remember the name now, just pulling it up here on my phone. Cornelius. Taylor Cornelius, throwing 3 interceptions against a very good Blue Bomber team, but without Trevor Harris, this is going to be a big test for this team. Can they survive without him? It's going to be tough to say. Trevor Harris has been one of the best quarterbacks in the league for a number of years now. And yeah, just with that defense, along with having some question marks at QB play right now with a rookie in there, no matter how talented this team is offensively, I feel better about other teams' situations at the most important position in football, all football, in my opinion, which is QB. Moving into the number 7 team on the power rankings here on Graham's Opinions power rankings, on my power rankings, I got the Calgary Stampeders. Now, the Calgary Stampeders, even though they are 2-5, the worst team in the West at this moment, I feel just a lot better about their quarterbacking situation than Edmonton's. Look, I know that I said Bo Levi Mitchell. I picked Calgary exactly because of Bo Levi Mitchell, thinking in my mind that this is finally when he's going to turn the corner. He had a week under his belt to get back into game action. And obviously for a vet like Bo, in a way, those vets maybe don't need as much reps to get back into that game form because of just what he's been able to do in his career. But Bo, even though he's thrown for a lot of yards this year, has struggled quite a bit, and he was struggling against a Hamilton team who, to be fair, has a good defense. He just hasn't looked like the same quarterback this year. The velocity on the football has not been the same from what I've seen. And obviously he is still playing kind of banged up, I would think. But, Jake Mayer has been solid this season, even though I don't know if he'll be able to pull this Calgary team back. He's definitely been the best option for this team, I think, at this point moving forward. It's crazy saying that, but it's going to be interesting to see who they're going to roll with. This team has some weapons offensively. Not going to deny that. At points, the defense has been not bad in that game against Winnipeg to note, but at the same time Winnipeg was kind of missing on some of their opportunities with their receivers catching footballs. And this is going to be a huge test for Calgary moving forward, something that this organization hasn't dealt with in a very long time, with just the struggles that they've had this season. And it's not going to get much easier for them here going up against some good teams in the upcoming coming weeks. Moving into who I got at number 6 on these power rankings, it's going to be the Toronto Argonauts. And Toronto, a team that this season has shown some signs of being one of the top football teams in the CFL, and one of those teams where you kind of got to question what this team really is. Nick Arbuckle at times has looked good this season, but at times has struggled. And Toronto, of course, they got a lot of good weapons on the offensive side of the ball. I'm talking about a guy like Eric Rogers. Of course, John White is there as well. And, at times, actually this defense hasn't been the greatest this year. And I called Saskatchewan to bounce back and win that game against them, which they did. And yeah, Toronto is just one of those teams I feel like they could be really on one week and really off the other. Not necessarily saying they were off this week. I think they just got beat by a better team, but I got them here at 6 just in terms of what the other teams have been able to do in front of them. Moving into the number 5 team on this power ranking, and it is the Montreal Alouettes. The Montreal Alouettes, one of those teams who I think is going to be a team that could be a threat in the East come playoff time with just what they have. Of course, like I said, I think probably one of the most skilled, if not the most skilled QB in the league in terms of just a dual threat option, a dual threat QB in Vernon Adams Jr. with just the way he can throw the ball and the way he can run it as well. They got one of the best running backs in the league, a solid receiving core, and solid defense as well. It's just with that loss against BC, obviously BC's defense able to I actually didn't watch this game. I gotta check the scores to see the stat line exactly. But just looking at it, Vernon Adams Jr., that's what I thought. He did struggle in this game, and there's been times where Vernon Adams has struggled this year. There's been times where he's looked like maybe the best quarterback in the league, and other times where he's been inconsistent. And credit to BC's defense for going out and doing what they were able to do against them. And I also think that was a huge statement game for the BC Lions. But yeah, if Vernon Adams is struggling, Vernon Adams Jr., this team is going to struggle, of course, not being able to put points up on the board. But you could definitely see this team rise if they're able to come out this week coming up against the Toronto Argonauts. Game going to be at BMO Field. But yeah, for now, Montreal is here. They got potential, I think, to rise up this list in the near future. But for now, 5 is where I'm ranking them. Moving on to the number 3 team in my power rankings, or the number 4 team in my power rankings. Hold on, we're not even past 4 yet. Going to the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Hamilton Tiger Cats coming in at the number 4 spot. And just looking at Hamilton, their defense has been really solid this season. Ever since they made that change with their secondary, I'm not sure what if they made any changes in this game, but against Calgary. But obviously, being able to shut down Calgary's offense was huge, right? This is a team with talent on the offensive side of the ball who is also missing pieces, Brandon Banks, and they also had a QB in that was the third stringer coming into the season, I'm pretty sure. And let's take a look at his name here. And David Watford. Watford had a solid game, 19 for 22 in the air, 149 yards, but he was efficient at that. And yeah, if this team gets fully healthy, I think that they're going to be able to do some damage. Of course, it's going to be interesting to see how Watford goes out, if he can go out and handle a team like Ottawa this week. But Of course, Hamilton has the coaching. I think that they have the defense, and I think that they have the offense as well. Just even though they're not healthy to be in this 4th spot on the power rankings this week. Moving into the number 3 team on this list, it is the Saskatchewan Roughriders, bouncing back nicely with a 30-16 lead over the Toronto Argonauts this past week in week 7 in the CFL. And yeah, honestly, like I said, when they weren't going up against Winnipeg, so I had them winning that game. Just Winnipeg, I think, has been a cut above everyone else in the rest of the league this season. But yeah, you just look at what Saskatchewan has, one of the top defenses in the league, in my opinion, just looking at it talent-wise. When you look at the pieces that they have, even though that they struggled against the Bombers, they were able to go out and take care of business in that game against the Toronto Argonauts. Looking at what Saskatchewan has on offense as well, even just going back to the defense, even though Saskatchewan gave up 2 touchdowns, over 300 yards to Nick Arbuckle, there were times in this game where Saskatchewan's defense looked good. And I think that just with Cody Fajardo having a bounce back game like he did, or at least I think, just looking at it, yeah, I'd say that he had a bounce back game, throwing 2 touchdowns, only 1 interception, but he didn't look anywhere near as bad he did against Winnipeg. And I guess that's what happens when you don't go up against a Winnipeg defensive line and a defense like we have. But this is a team who can run the ball. Of course, William Powell is one of the premier backs in this league. Of course, they got good talent, guys that are stepping up, like, just got to pronounce his name fully here, Kean Schaefer Baker, who had 99 yards and TD on 9 catches. Of course, they got a receiver who is one of the best in the league in Kyran Moore, and some other pieces as well. That defense is really strong too. And actually, one thing that I forgot to mention about the Argonauts is that they just hired former Rough Riders head coach Chris Jones and 2015 Grey Cup champion with the Edmonton Eskimos, that Chris Jones, as a defensive consultant. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do with Toronto's defense. But yeah, Saskatchewan, a team that went out and proved that they can take care of business this week, proving that they weren't going to lose 3 games in a row, and they are tied for 2nd place in the West at this point. And this brings me to the number 2 team in the power rankings. It's the BC Lions. BC going out and beating a quality team this past weekend against the Montreal Alouettes. Mike Riley looking really good in that game. Able to go out there and throw for 21 completions on 25 throws for over 300 yards at 308, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. And Mike Riley, I'll keep saying it, the best QB in the CFL at this point. And just looking at the talent they have around him, looking at, even though that run game isn't the greatest, they got guys like Brian Burnham, Lucky Whitehead, Javon Kotoy, or however you pronounce his name. The defense has been really solid this year as well, as of late, as I should say. And anytime you got a guy like Mike Riley at QB, you're always going to be a threat to beat teams. Now that this team is having that defense come to play in these games, being able to go out and shut down a very versatile QB in Vernon Adams Jr., it's good signs to come, I think, for this BC Lions team, at least for this period of time for them, for sure. And yeah, all rides on Mike Riley's success. Can he stay healthy? If he is, look out. This could be a team that could be a threat to anyone in the league, except for maybe this team who I got at number 1, a cut above the rest of the league right now. They went out and proved it once again in a full 4-quarter game. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers, Zach Collaros having his worst game of the season. Didn't matter, though. The Bombers' defense came out to play, forcing Taylor Cornelius for 3 interceptions in that game. And yeah, if it weren't for that first interception by Collaros, this game could have been a bigger blowout and way early on. But that interception really left Edmonton a chance to be in this game. They put up 10 points in that second quarter, but other than that, the Bombers dominant all game long. There's a few things that they got to adjust for sure, like being, maybe tighter on their coverage consistently throughout the game, getting good field goal kicking, which has been very inconsistent for the Bombers this year, probably their Achilles heel so far. But going back to that coverage, the Bombers seem to sure things up when it matters the most, and they were able to do that, winning in a game against the Edmonton Elks, though be it without Trevor Harris. But yeah, the Bombers able to go out and win 37-22, heading into the bye week with only 1 loss, riding into the bye week on a 4-game winning streak. And at this point, even when Collaros had a bad game, this team, with just how good it is around him, was able to come through. Just looking at Andrew Harris. Yeah, he had a solid game as well. 97 yards on 19 carries. Of course, Sean McGuire getting it done as well. And Nick Dembski as well, having a receiver like him getting it done on the ground game. Nice for the Bombers to have a versatile receiver like that. This Bombers team is absolutely loaded at the receiving position. Maybe not the top receivers in the league, but a lot of good talent on this team. And yeah, the Bombers, if they continue the way they've been playing after the bye week, it's going to be scary for teams to go up against them. I don't see many teams beating the Bombers at this point, maybe for a select few. But yeah, that's going to do it for the power rankings. I'm going to give you guys my quick predictions here, make it as quick as possible. There's only 3 games this week in the CFL, and yeah, let's get into it. I was 2 for 2 on predictions in last week's edition of the show. Let's start off with tonight's game, which is kind of interesting that they have a game tonight. No games on Saturday or Sunday. Double header on Friday. But yeah, let's start off with the Hamilton Tiger Cats going into Ottawa to play the Red Blacks. The Red Blacks, of course, coming off of a bye week. They'll be fresh, but yeah, I'm going with Hamilton in this game. I just think Hamilton has too good of a roster. I think that defense is going to be giving whoever Ottawa has a QB fits all night long. I think that Hamilton's offense will be good enough. Going to be interesting to see Watford in this game tonight, how he does in his second start. But yeah, going with the road team in this one, the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Moving on to the Montreal Alouettes and the Toronto Argonauts. I'm going to roll with the road team in this game. I think Vernon Adams has a bounce back, even with Chris Jones being hired as the defensive consultant. Not too sure how that's going to go. I just feel like Montreal's offense is too good to be shut down again. I feel like even though the Argo is coming off of a loss, it'll be a game where maybe this team will be able to put up points. I think that could be a good possibility. But in the end, I just like Vernon Adams Jr. and that Montreal offense better than Toronto's defense. I think that they'll be able to take some shots down the field and connect guys like BJ Cunningham, a guy like Eugene Lewis, I think will bounce back. This Montreal team has a lot of weapons offensively, and not to mention you got a guy like William Stanback, who I think will be looking to impose his will on this defense, similar to how William Stanback did last week against the Toronto Argonauts. Moving into the third and final game of the week 8 here in the CFL, the second of the doubleheader. on Friday Night Football, sponsored by The Brick on TSN. We got the BC Lions going up against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and this is a huge game. Winner of this game takes sole possession of second in the West. Maybe it might end in a tie, and we still might be tied, but yeah, this is going to be a very good game. Two very good defenses at this point going up against each other, two teams with good offenses going up against each other, and I am going to go and roll with very close. I'm going to say this game is going to go over. I'm not sure what the over-under is, but I think that even though these defenses are really good, this is going to be a high-scoring game. And yeah, I'm going to go bold on that. Say it's going to be higher scoring, maybe in the 30s, similar to the first game of the season against these two, where it was only a 3-score game. Pretty sure it was like 32-29 for Saskatchewan. But yeah, you're going to roll with the BC Lions in this game. It's just solely because of BC having the best quarterback in the CFL right now, in my opinion, like I've said, in Mike Riley. I feel like Mike Riley is going to go out there and get it done against the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense. I think a huge thing for Saskatchewan in this game is going to be possessing the ball. They can definitely do that. Having a dual threat QB like Cody Fajardo, having a running back like William Powell. But just looking at what BC was able to do last weekend against the run, we'll see. We already know what they were able to do against the pass, but looking at it, BC against the run. Just gotta get it here. BC against the run last week, 139 yards against on 18 carries, and William Powell definitely has that capability to be that power back and control a game. Cody Fajardo needs to limit his mistakes, can't have games like he did against the Bombers. Of course, this BC defense not as good as the Bombers, but still BC been playing at a very good level, shutting down another dual threat QB, like I said already, against Vernon Adams last weekend. And I just feel like in this game, if they're not able to do that, if they're not able to control time of possession, BC wins this game. Saskatchewan is able to control time possession, put some touchdowns on the board, or at least get some field goals the majority of the time. Actually, more touchdowns the majority of the time. Saskatchewan will have a chance, but I don't see it going that way. I think Mike Riley and the BC offense will be too good in this game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders defense, and I think that BC will be continuing their strong play and go to 5-2 on the season. So there we have it, rolling with the Tiger Cats over the Red Blacks tonight, the Alouettes over the Argonauts on the first game in the Friday doubleheader this week, as well as BC winning in a high-scoring affair over the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Mike Riley and his team getting it done. So that was a very long edition of Graeme's opinion. I did not write down any notes, so that's why I was looking on my phone. My document didn't save. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this edition of Manitoba Show, Rise and Shine Manitoba. Special thanks to Gordie Tumilson, Harry Siemens, and Lorena Mitchell for joining today's edition of the show. Special thanks to you, the viewer, for tuning in this morning, as well as a special thanks to the official sponsors, or the sponsors, we'll call it that, of Rise and Shine Manitoba. The official sponsor, Fabricland Winkler, as well as Evolve Green, AETi, and Systems Beauty College. I'll be back on the network for Rise and Shine Manitoba next week, of course, at 10 a.m. Central Daylight Time. You can catch that one live on our Facebook at ASTV Productions, on our website at astvproductions.com, or on our Twitter at Amateur Sports TV. But until next week, until next week on Monday, folks, I'm going to sign off now. Graeme Forsyth, host of Rise and Shine Manitoba Show, wishing you all happy rest of your Wednesday. Go outside and enjoy this wonderful weather if you're in the province of Manitoba. Stay safe out there as well, and have a wonderful weekend too, folks. See everybody.